Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 570 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day, is Friday, January 31st. Happy birthday to my brother Dwayne. Yay. And it's, well, 5, of course. And I'm not quite sure what kind of day it is at the Beaver Lodge because it's still dark outside and we've got the blinds pulled. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Apologies for the weird framing. For some reason, my camera is in super zoom in mode and I cannot get down low enough to get in print, which looks like I'm the hunchback of Notre Beaver. It's going to be a fun show. I do not know how you go to bed and wake up and the camera's on different settings, but apparently, and there is no settings for Zoom in Restream, so there's no way to zoom me out. So
Yeah,
I'm
I don't know.
until the camera decides, or until such time as the camera decides it's going to reset to itself to what it was. So I might be stuck like this for a couple of weeks. I don't know why this happened. I don't know how it's going to go. Oh well, but we're together, so that's what matters. But no, I'm not doing. I'm not from the basement. Like, I'm not the resistance today. Ugh. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Still not great. I slept in yesterday. I didn't wake up till 9 a.m. I got up, took Lola for a walk, and then came back home and went back to bed until noon. I didn't get any sleep. Like, as you all know, I've been battling insomnia for some time now, and it's an ongoing battle. And yesterday it caught up to me. So that's where I was yesterday. And yeah, I'm not emotionally, mentally great right now, but that's just what happens. It's just sometimes that's what takes place. But I'm hosting a wine and cheese this evening for my some of the guys from the Scotch and Cigar Club. So have a little gathering at the Studio A of Polly's World at the bar area, and hopefully that'll lift my spirits. I think it will. I'm looking forward to it. So
Good. I hope it does. All right, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly, I don't know if you have it, but I resent you some of the clips that I wanted to show yesterday.
okay, I do have the Karina Gould one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get to that at some point there later on. But there's Ontario election going on, whatnot, and we'll get to that next week. There's just too much news.
There's a lot.
I mean, this
A
is
lot of
Karina.
news.
This is Karina. We're going to be talking about her campaign launch, which was like a while ago now.
Yes.
So we're just getting around to it now. But yeah, I'd like to start out a little bit, however, before we get to Karina Gold, with Mr. Singh,
Well, what did he
because
do?
oh,
I, I
yesterday,
I did not see much news yesterday. I've been perusing the headlines this morning. Yesterday was, kind of a write-off. We had a meeting in the afternoon, and I was not super present for that, unfortunately, because I was just such a zombie. I don't think I did too terrible, though, did I?
no, you didn't, not at all,
Okay, good.
not at all, not at all. Mr. Singh is doing this thing. Ah, that rhymed. Ah.
You're a poet.
He's doing
You
this thing.
didn't know it.
Yes, but I did know it. Mr. Singh is doing this thing, and he's been doing it for a while where, he's trying to break free of having been so tied to the Liberal Party that he's been making some weird decisions that don't help any of the things that he says that his party would want. And yesterday, um, he came out and made a statement. Now, since Mr. Singh had that press conference where he told us 11 times that he tore up the deal, he's been having several other press conferences that now, in which he's been saying the same thing for the last little while. Nope, no matter what happens, no matter what happens whatsoever, there's no circumstances that it's going to change that. We are going to be voting down the government sometime at the end of March to send us into an election because, yes, we are going to do exactly what the Conservatives have been asking us to do, but we're going to do it on our own motion so that we can pretend that we didn't do what the Conservatives have asked us to do all along. That's been his stance. And I've been telling you, kids and cubs, hold on to that because things might change. And then we got Trump. And then we got tariffs. And he's still talking like things haven't changed. Sort of. He wants, well, he wants Parliament to, he keeps on saying that he wants Parliament to come back.
Mhm.
Him and all of his pundits keep on going on the shows and say, well, if Parliament was functioning, we'd be able to do these things. But Parliament was not functioning before.
Prior, yes.
Like we said on the show, the Prime Minister prorogued because he decided he was going to step down. There's going to be a party leadership race. But the Prime Minister could have just as easily gone to the Governor General and prorogued because nothing was getting through Parliament. And simply ask for a cooling off period.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. You're absolutely right about that. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that. I'd say millions of Canadians don't understand it or refuse to acknowledge it or haven't been properly informed. And why have they not been properly informed as to why Parliament wasn't getting anything done? Why do you think that is?
Media failed. Media did not report it and put the proper context on it.
And why do you think they failed, though? I think it was intentional.
Oh, yeah.
Because, once again, I lay the finger of blame at the American-owned media corporations in this country, which, I'm sorry, but that never should have been a thing.
Never.
And the finger of blame is placed on Stephen Harper for allowing that to happen. Because prior to Stephen Harper, that was not a thing in this country. It was not allowed. Foreign ownership of a media conglomerate was not allowed in this country.
Yep.
Harper changed that. Why?
That was the beginning of the end.
Why did he change that? Well, because this way, when you own the medium, you control the message. Remember the late, great Canadian, Marshall McLuhan, the
Yep.
medium is the message.
Yep.
And when you own the medium, you can control the message.
Yeah.
And this is not new. What I'm saying is not, this has been around for a very long time. Newspapers essentially started to support politicians and politics. And it was never, originally, they were never really about telling you facts. They were about telling you the story they wanted you to hear.
Mm. Yes.
And then that changed at some point, but now it's fully back that way.
Mm.
They're telling you the story they want you to hear. They're leaving out facts. They're ignoring things. They're glossing things over. They're blaming different things. I mean, what was it that the article in the National Post not too long ago said? 1 in 7 Canadians felt that the COVID lockdown measures were too strict. Okay.
Mhm.
1 in 7. So what you're saying is 90% of the country didn't have a problem with it, but you're rewriting it to make it look like most people had an issue. Number 1. Number
Right.
2, we never, not once, did
Mhm.
any of us be placed in lockdown.
Right.
We had business shutdowns. Nobody was locked down. But this media corp, which is American owned, goes out of its way to paint a picture of doom and gloom, to rage farm, for want of a better term, so that they can control you with their message.
Mhm. And when you say the medium is the message, we've had a couple of examples of that. When the day the prime minister stepped aside, all Pierre Poilievre had was a video.
Yes.
Talk to
Yeah.
us.
A pre-recorded
That was,
video.
that was a message.
Yes.
That choice of medium was a message to us, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Mr. Singh is out there and has been saying, we're taking down the government, but he's also been saying, well, if Parliament was operating, we would be able to address these problems, but Parliament was operating and no problems were being addressed, right? So every time Mr. Singh or Mr. Poilievre comes to camera and makes the, if only Parliament were operating, they are treating you like you are stupid.
Yes.
They're literally laughing in your faces and mocking at you. It's like, remember Eddie Murphy, Delirious? Like this was telling the thing about the ice cream man.
Mm-hmm.
Like this.
Watch
And
watch how fast I make these little mother truckers
yes,
run.
exactly. And then the next line was, and the ice cream man always drove an extra block.
Yep.
Right? Ice cream. And then when you stop, thank you, ice cream man. Thank you.
Thank you, ice cream man. Thank you.
Right? You're stopping.
Ice cream. Mom, throw down some money.
Right. So this is what's going on here. You got Jagmeet Singh trying to make us run an extra block
Yes.
here.
Puppet master, right?
Yeah. So he still wants to look strong and he still wants to look like he wants to take down the government. But, well, there might be tariffs coming and we need to do something for the people. So Jagmeet Singh has been sitting there like this. We need another meeting like we had at the COVID time where we brought everybody together and come up with a plan. Yeah, but if there's anything in that requires legislation, like for example, if there's going to be tens of billions of dollars in stimulus, or we're going to counter tariffs, or whatever programs that we're going to do to redistribute this type of stuff, and we need to pass some legislation, well, then you have to agree to bring back the House and not bring down the government at the first opportunity. But Jagmeet Singh can't bring himself to say that for some reason. But at the same time, he wants Parliament to reconvene so that he can pass some measures to help people. You see where the thing is? Because if you bring Parliament back and you take down the Liberals at the first opportunity, then you can't pass the measures.
Anything. Yes.
This is what the Conservatives keeps on doing. Like, oh my God, we have to recall Parliament to address this. Okay, let's vote down the government. Boom. And it doesn't get addressed.
They're trying to give us a snow job.
Right. So for the Conservatives, it's a ploy. But for the NDP, it's a, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jagmeet Singh is not on particularly solid ground here as well. Because, again, I know what everybody thinks of polls, but we have to take what we have. And there is some public opinion polling on this by none other than Angus Reid. Again, not known to be the most liberal-leaning pollster in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not saying
lightly.
no, I won't go far as saying is that they're in the bag or whatnot, but has an impression within the public, let's just put it that way, of not being exactly impartial.
Mm-hmm.
So he came out yesterday with a position that makes absolutely no sense. And I will give you that actual information right now about the polling so that you can have it in the context. Angus Reid asked, Parliament should, and then gave 3 statements. The first statement is, be brought back so opposition can trigger an election. Of the 3 options, this one got the highest number, got the plurality, got 47%. Now, 47%, wow, want an election right now. That sounds like a lot. Yes, but you have to remember, if you're going to break down these numbers, that 47% probably includes 100% of conservative and PPC voters. The people that actually want to defeat the government want to go now. Not a surprise. If you look at where people most likely to vote Liberal would be, Liberal voters, maybe some NDP swing voters, maybe some Green voters, maybe some Bloc Liberal voters, there's not much interest in that. There are two other options, and that's what makes the 47 number look big, because the other two options are divided, right? One, be brought back only if the opposition agree not to trigger an election, 30%. So Canadians would like to have some of these measures passed, maybe a couple of other things. They would like to have Parliament operating right now, but it has to be without the threat of going to an election.
Right.
That's 30% of Canadians who want that. Okay. Now, again, that's probably closer to 100% of Liberal voters and whatever percent, right? Now, here's the last one is remain suspended until March 24th, 23%. So there's 23% of Canadians who want Parliament to remain suspended until the 24th, and another 30% that wanted to remain suspended until March 24th, unless opposition promised not to trigger an election. So that's 53% of the population that doesn't want anything at all, an election at all, before at least March 24th, and probably not before that. But they're divided into two groups, which makes it 53%. But when you're looking at that number, Jagmeet Singh gets Parliament called back now to pass those things. What do you think that percentage of that 53% is NDP voters? And what do you think of that percentage would be really happy to be going into an election immediately after these things are passed? 30% want Parliament to be brought back only if there's going to be no threat of an election. 23 want it to stay. More people want it to come back without an election than want it to stay pro. So there's nothing in there for Jagmeet Singh to say, kill Parliament.
Right.
Nothing. These numbers are terrible for the NDP.
Well, Absolutely. He knows that would be it. He'd be finished, right?
Yes, it would sink him. Then layer on top of that, if you take the absolute worst public opinion poll in terms of the horse race, some of them have the NDP at 13 or 14%. The NDP has 25, 26 seats. A big chunk of them maybe more than that. Sorry, has a big chunk of seats, big chunk in BC and a big chunk in Ontario, and very little elsewhere. These numbers, so the worst of the numbers, show the NDP losing 8 of the 25 seats they have in BC alone.
Well, this from Elaine, I just put it on the screen, says people need to contact NDP MPs and remind them that pharmacare hasn't started yet and dental care for everyone else needs to start.
Yes.
So if the government is brought down, the two big programs that they really pushed for, and as I'm going to use Jagmeet Singh's words here, we forced them. We forced them. Okay, sure. Those programs will die. Dental care will not get fully implemented. And pharmacare won't happen. And you know damn well, under a conservative government with Pierre Poilievre at the helm, he will axe those so fast your head will spin. You will be surprised at how quickly I will.
Yeah.
He will. I mean, he's already promised to cancel the carbon rebates because he cannot cancel the carbon regulatory recovery fee. He can't. He can cancel it for consumers, but he won't do that. He'll just cancel the rebates because we have it tied into trade agreements with nations around the world. And remember, the United States of America, although that is our largest trading partner, we are diversifying trade with other nations because smart people in government have realized for quite some time now that they're starting to become an isolationist nation. And under the new president, the new administration, they're isolating themselves quick. Very quick. And it's kind of frightening how quickly they want to isolate themselves. And he already, I don't know if you are aware of this, but I'll bring up the quote here in just a second. He recently, here it is, I have the quote. I'll put it on the screen and I'll read it to you folks, because this one is just, and I'll explain it because you might not be fully aware of what's going on. But this is what Trump said. The idea that BRICS countries, now BRICS are
Brazil,
it's like,
Russia,
yes,
India, China.
Indonesia, China. It's like a G7 equivalent for other nations.
Right.
Okay. Now, the idea that BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. We are going to require a commitment from these seemingly hostile countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. They can go find another sucker nation. There is no chance that BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade or anywhere else, and any country that tries should say hello to tariffs and goodbye to America. This is the president of the United States.
What if all the countries in the world called her bluff at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to create a new currency. You know what? We don't even need to create a new currency. We're just going to talk to the European Union, and we're all buying into that. We're all going to use the euro. What you going to do now, Donald? What you going to do?
With these policies that he's putting in, the great American economy is not going to be great all that longer, and not a lot of people are going to want to join in it. And I know that you think that all these tariffs and stuff like that are going to bring all these companies back. Like, for example, Ford Canada, there's Ford United States. Well, hey, let's just make it that more expensive to operate in Canada, and then Ford Canada will close down and we'll just be all Ford United States. Yeah, but you can't get healthcare and you can't get an abortion. If you're black, you can't get a job, and nobody can eat because nobody's picking the food. So what company wants to go and put themselves there, sir?
Yes. Well, I don't know if you're aware of the $1 trillion of losses in the stock market over the last couple of days. $1 trillion in losses. Yeah. Remember, put it into focus. 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. To give you an idea of how much money was lost, trillions of dollars evaporated from the stock market because of what the president of the United States is doing.
Yep. Yeah, he's sending the world economy into a turmoil if we don't realign, and we don't realign quick.
We're all going down.
The era, because any premier that's out there saying, the United States, our closest friend, anybody who's talking about the United States as a friend right now, is in that rhetoric, because is not meeting the moment. We're not friends, we're not family.
But what was a friend of mine said to me a couple of years back? He said, countries don't have friends. They have trading partners.
Interests.
And sometimes the trading partners do not align. And that's when they have to renegotiate their trade agreement. They have mutual interest in each other, but friends, we have friends in both those countries, but countries don't make friends with other countries.
No.
Countries make deals. That's it.
Yep. So, according to iPolitics, getting back to Mr. Singh here, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh vowed Thursday to force a spring election at the end of March when Parliament is scheduled to return. Even though it seems that 53% of Canadians are not particularly into that right now. But even as he doubled down on his pledge to topple the Liberal government, Singh called on that government to recall Parliament early to work on legislation to prepare for a possible tariff war with the United States. Quote, "We will be voting against the government at the end of March," Singh said at a press conference in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. He repeated that line several times when pressed by journalists on the tight timeline. Singh has been calling for Parliament to reconvene early to rush through supports for workers who would be affected by U.S. President Donald Trump's threatened 25% tariffs. And I would like to point out the irony here, how everybody is saying that this government is currently leaderless, but they want the leaderless government to come back to lead in doing stuff for Canadians. You
Yeah.
can't at the same time say that we're leaderless and say that government, we absolutely need you to call back Parliament so that we can lead on this.
I had a conversation with somebody recently who said, well, we have a lame duck leader. And I just kind of went, no, that's not a thing in Canada.
No.
We still have a leader.
Yes.
We still have a prime minister. We're never left rudderless. We
Yes.
always have a leader in the Westminster system.
Yep.
But people hear the words, the buzzwords, they get tossed around by legacy media, who is doing a disservice to Canadians because they're using terms that apply to American politics, not Canadian politics. And
We even got Daniel Smith
believe it.
talking about a border czar. We don't have a border czar. There's already a director of Canadian Border Services.
Yes.
Way ahead of you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Way ahead of you. It's like, God, these people. It's like, stop Americanizing our politics.
Please
We are
stop.
not them.
Please
We're
stop.
us.
Yes.
Quote, Jagmeet Singh, we will be voting against the government and there will be an election in the spring, he said. But before that time, there will be 2 months. Is the Liberal government proposing that we do nothing for 2 months? I don't know, Mr. Singh, because you proposed we did nothing between September and December. Except pass a GST holiday. Again, this guy. Because how are these words coming out of his mouth when he knows this stuff? All three main opposition parties have said they intend to bring down the government in a confidence vote at the earliest opportunity. Parliament is currently prorogued until March 24th as the Liberals choose a new leader to replace outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whose party continues to lead in the national polls, has also demanded that Parliament return immediately as Canada faces down Trump's threat. Gentle correction on that one. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whose party continues to lead in national polls, except one. Now, because Main Street no longer has them in the lead. Singh stood with union leaders and unionized steelworkers Thursday morning to announce NDP's, quote, buy Canadian policy to respond to Trump's threat of economically damaging tariffs. Buy Canadian is not an NDP policy. Buy Canadian is a boilerplate standard policy that comes around every time the United States tries to screw us over. And Mr. Singh, trust me, I've seen the memes go around and people like, circulating here. It's like Canadian products that you can buy already like for a couple of weeks. You're a little late to the party. Buy Canadian is not your strategy at all. And it's literally the least you could do. Hey, everybody, the Americans are screwing us over. Let's buy Canadian. Wow. Okay. And then what? It's not a strategy. It's not a policy. Singh said Canada should overhaul its procurement rules and bar American companies from all federal government procurement contracts if Trump follows through on his tariff threat. This is a good idea, but he's not the first and the only one to suggest it. Quote, we need to make sure that we're favoring Canadian companies that produce the things that we need in our own country, Singh said. Just before the 2019 election, Singh called for changes to federal procurement rules to force the government to buy more of what it needs from Canadian firms. At least this is not a new thing from them. Liberal leadership candidate Chrystia Freeland also pitched a Buy Canadian plan earlier this week. She said Ottawa should bar Americans from non-defense-related government procurements contracts in response to Trump tariffs, so Chrystia Freeland said it first. Singh's policy would bar American firms from bidding on Canadian defense contracts as well, although a party spokesperson said exemptions could be made for items that aren't built in Canada, which is a lot.
Indeed.
Just saying, pretty much everything in certain ways. Trump's nominee for Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, told a Senate hearing on Wednesday that Canada could face emergency tariffs at first, with the prospect of more coming down the road. And it seems that, Trump was asked about that again the other day. It's like, oh, yeah, they absolutely are coming in on the first. So either Trump was very upset that his Commerce Secretary went out and said publicly that, hey, maybe there's a circumstance where they won't come, because Trump's like that. Someone in his cabinet says, oh, no, Trump's not considering that. I was like, oh, you committed me to something, and it does the opposite just for spite. It's a Trump thing. Trump threatened to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico as early as February 1st if they don't step up border security. There's a reason that fewer than 1% of the fentanyl coming into the United States comes in through Canada, because we already did that work. Sure that it doesn't go out from Canada, but we make sure it doesn't go out from Canada. If something slips through the cracks, That's why we have this little bit of built-in redundancy where you check what comes in across your border. So if we're able to make sure that 99% of the fentanyl that comes in the United States doesn't come from the Canadian border, the 1% that does is the 1% you're not able to stop, how much effort are you putting in to stop fentanyl coming across your border? Right?
Yeah.
It's fewer than 1% of it. You can't catch it. We stop. Like, come on, man. It makes
You know
no
what we
sense.
have? The border problem in Canada is U.S. guns coming across the border into Canada.
Yeah, and cocaine and whatever else, right?
Yes.
And maybe pretty soon. I mean, we had an issue with migrants for a while, the whole Rocks and Roll thing. And I have a feeling that might start again too. So I said, well, when are we going to start making a few demands in this thing? It's like, yeah, we got some demands too. So, Mr. Singh, call back the parliament now. See, here's Mr. Singh. You know, Mr. Polyev has been saying, Justin, because all you have to do is just go right to the Governor General's residence and tell him that you're quitting your job and that you're resigning right now and just give me the election I want. Just give it to me because I want it.
Yeah, I want it now. Yeah.
Oh, I want it now. Yes. And so, in other words, Justin, make it easier for me to win. Well, Jagmeet Singh has decided to put his Pierre Polyev on because he said, hey, Justin, because I want to get all the credit for having forced you to put in measures to help people with the tariffs, but I still want to
Yes.
take you down and go to an election at the end of March. So please recall Parliament to help me do that to you. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, you dumbass. It's like, if Trump imposes these tariffs on Saturday, what makes you think that at the end of March, the situation is going to be better and that this aid relief that you're asking for is going to be less needed then? What are the odds that if the Prime Minister says, yeah, take this, flips you the bird and says, waits till the end of March, when the end of March comes, that the pressure is going to be less on you, Mr. Singh, to get these measures passed? You're not exactly playing the long game here, sir.
No.
There's not going to be less need for this relief 2 months down the road if the tariffs start now. You have no leverage, sir. If the Prime Minister waits, if everybody waits until March to reconvene the Parliament, and these tariffs have been on since February 1st, and we are now March 27th, and it's been 2 full months, do you think anybody in Canada who's going to be suffering as a result of this is going to be wanting to hear your talk about taking down the government at that time? You're not playing. All you are doing is setting yourself to swallow yourself up whole 2 months down the road. Just bite the bullet now. Circumstances have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I am a team player. I will, therefore, guarantee that this parliament will operate until October.
Well, and something that
That's all you
never
have to
gets,
say.
the one thing that never gets bandied about is that the election actually isn't until 2026.
Officially, yes.
Officially. You can have it a year early. It could happen in this October. They can call an election in October. But by the calendar, the set schedule, it's 2026 because it's every 5 years.
Oh, yeah, terms are 5 years.
Not 4. Not 4. It's 5. And the last election was 2021. So 2026 would be the official date on the calendar. They could have it this October, but technically, you'd be surprised at how many people are fully unaware of that.
Yes. Yeah, we have that leeway in case there's something that happens.
Yeah,
So
they
for
can have it in
term-
October, or they can wait a year and do it according to schedule.
Yes. Now, we never talk in Canada about elections as a 5-year cycle. We always talk at 4, and that's why our fixed election date was written, the law was written in that way. But there is constitutionally an extra year margin. The 4 years is just a convention thing that
Correct.
we've agreed upon. And maybe, like I said, agreed on 4 years to leave that extra year in case like of war or major economic, so that we don't have to change laws and whatnot. Okay, you can stay in power like for an extra year to manage things and this and that.
Pandemic
Organized, like for example, if COVID was happening and we have that election, we could, if we are in the if we were at the end of the 4 years, we could have delayed that for 6 months to give Elections Canada an extra 6 months to make sure that everything was healthy and safe, healthy and safe enough for us to go and vote. If that
Right.
had not been done, it'd still be within the Constitution. So, I think that's probably why we gave ourselves to give ourselves a little leeway in case of real, true national emergencies, and still be able to not have the democratic process be upended, building just in a buffer. But yes, Mr. Grizzly is right. It is 5 years technically as a term.
Again, though, most people are so convinced by, I'll say, legacy media, amongst others, saying that, oh no, it's every 4 years. It's like, no, it's not. It's a disservice to Canadians when legacy media does not tell the truth.
Yep.
And I get, the medium is the message, and the medium is controlled by oligarchs who want you to be under their boot heel and live in the new feudal system. And if you think I'm being alarmist or hyperbolic, I'm not. You do realize that in the city of Ottawa, a city of over 1 million, when you combine it with Gatineau, it's 1.6 million and change. But in the city of Ottawa, a city of over 1 million, there are 4 companies, who own 90% of the rental stock. Now, when that happens, the prices are set by them. You pay what they tell you. And when your income is reduced to, people aren't getting raises, incomes have not kept up with productivity for the last 50 years. And as a result, people are earning less money today than they did 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. Housing prices, forget it. Unless you have family money, most people will never own a home. So you're forced into the rental market. Okay, no problem. I'm in the rental market. I'm happy to be renting. I don't wish to own a home. I never desired to do so. And that's fine. I'm in a rent-controlled building. But if I was to move out and then try and move back in, I cannot afford to live in my neighborhood anymore, where I've been for 15 years almost. I couldn't afford to live here anymore.
Right.
Because the 4 companies that own most of the rental stock in this city have set prices to the point where 50 to 60%, in some cases 70% of your income goes towards your housing costs.
Yep.
We're in a new feudal system, folks.
Yep.
A lot of people just don't seem to realize it.
When I was younger, when I got my mortgage, the first time for my condo, I think it was the test was 33%, 1/3.
Correct. Yes.
Not
And it
more
should
than
be no
1/3
higher than that.
was supposed to be spent on lodging.
It should
Now,
never be higher than 30%.
Yep. Now, the other reason I'm saying Mr. Singh probably should just bite the bullet now is that if we do reconvene Parliament for tariffs and aid packages, well, Justice Marie-Josée Hung just tabled a report on a public inquiry on foreign interference that had 51 recommendations, 24 of which should be acted upon promptly, some of them which require legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So will we do that too, Mr. Singh, while we're doing the aid stuff in case of tariffs? And there is that bill that's already in certain stages that would allow us more time to go vote early and more access to voting for the next election that stalled, that you could have passed sometime between September and now, but you kept that blocked too. And that's a bill that you keep on telling everybody that you really, really, really want passed, but you've done absolutely nothing to help it pass. That one's there on the order paper. And so is the online harms bill, Mr. Singh. Would you like to, since Parliament is already open, to pass that? Because make sure that those ones pass too. Or are you going to keep blocking those? And then you're in a position of being asked, well, why do you think it's more important to pass tariff money for people who may have their jobs affected than it is to protect kids from online harms? Since Parliament is already open, why can't you do both? That will be a very inconvenient question for an NDP leader.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want these measures passed, but why do you not want to pass Ms. Ogg's recommendations. And that would be a new bill. So that'll take a little time to get through. Maybe even until the summer recess. April, May, early June, gone. Which brings us into the fall election. You're probably going to have all your staff in Ontario that's going to be tired. I mean, the NDP and the Liberals on the Ontario election haven't even named a full slate of candidates yet. Both parties are about 50 MPPs short, or nominees short. And I do not know how that is possible, because Doug Ford has been telegraphing for the better part of a year that he wants to go now. How are your slots not filled? So
so he's called an election at the end of February because he believes he can win a landslide majority, right? And a lot of people are going, "Why are you doing this?" I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of happy about it because maybe we can vote him out.
It creates the opportunity. He's opened the door.
Yes. He's opened the door. Maybe we can vote him out. Let's hope enough people are engaged that we get up off our duffs and cast the ballot and send his government packing for all of the truly terrible things that they've done.
Yes, Doug Ford being kept even to a minority would be enough to make him go, at least.
Yes. Yes. Well, and something somebody said to me recently, and I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think we talked about it the other day, is how if the government in Ontario is conservative, the federal government tends to be liberal.
Tends to be. Yep. There's some overlap every now and then, but yes, it tends to be. Ontario tends to like have one and
the other. So it makes one wonder if he gets the boot, and let's say, I don't know, the Greens get in as an example. And I kind of wish they would, because I like Mike Schreiner a lot.
Yep.
And he firmly believes that we need to double ODSP.
Yep.
At a minimum, double it. And I'm like, I like what this man is saying. And he knows that doubling ODSP will save us millions of dollars in the long run.
And stimulate the
economy. Give a chance for somebody to become a little bit more upwardly mobile, as the saying goes. So let's say the Green Party forms government. I don't know what that means federally.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, Greens will work with anybody, right? So long as you're.
Yes.
And they're not the adversarial party.
No, they're not an adversarial party, and contrary to what people like to believe, the lie that they've been told, that the Green Party is basically a bunch of tree hugging, granola crunching, Birkenstock wearing hippies. And I'm like, no, they're conservatives who believe in the environment is important and we need to preserve it. But the scenario has been painted that they're the exact opposite of that. And I'm like, no, they are a truly progressive conservative party.
There's another wing too, though. There's a truly progressive conservative wing, and then there's the disaffected NDP, very militant.
Yes,
as well.
Certainly.
That part of it as well, like this, that are disappointed with the NDP on the environment, because when we had Annemie Paul coming in, it was the Palestinian issue that took down the Green Party. Again, just like it's taking down the NDP at the moment, even the Ontario NDP, because there's been an issue with that too. It seems that there's a candidate that was going through a nomination process that has been denied all of a sudden, and it's not so much the denial as the fact that it seems that they were led to believe that they were going to be allowed to continue, and maybe they shouldn't have. I don't know the full details here, and then the rug was yanked out from under them.
Well, this is
which would mean that if the person was unqualified before, they should have been told before, rather than have the opportunity to build all this stuff up. And now that they're pulling the rug, is creating an issue within the community.
It's an interesting comment here from Hyperdy 007. They should probably change their name from Green. I'm like, although that's a lot of money and it's an established brand, but hey, it's been done before, right?
It has.
What if they were to change their names to, I don't know, I'm thinking.
The New Progressive.
Doing there?
New Progressive Conservative Party, Canada?
The New Progressive Conservative Party of Canada.
NPC.
The NPC.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
mean, it would be a rebranding that would be effective because it would prick up the ears of a lot of people who go, "What? I thought you guys were tree hugging, granola crunching, Birkenstock wearing hippies." And it's like, no, they have always been progressive conservatives. Elizabeth May worked for Brian Mulroney. Remember that?
she made him the greenest
Yes.
minister up until the current.
I mean, and he was the greenest prime minister we ever had, too, by the way. Up until,
Up until this.
up until this point, yes. So it's one of these things, if they were to rebrand, yeah, that could probably work. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it'll happen. But look, the more and more I see good candidates for the Green Party and good leadership, such as Elizabeth May and Mike Schreiner, I let's give them a shot. I mean, seriously, it sounds like I'm campaigning for them, but I'm like, could it hurt? Like, we
We've
could
tried
do much
everything
worse.
else.
We could do much worse, though, right?
Right. We've tried everything else.
Well, and I mean, we're not a two-party system in this country, but technically speaking,
Yes.
we're not. But in actuality, we kind of are.
We kind of are. Yes.
It's liberal or conservative, liberal or conservative. That's always led the nation. Well, why not try something else for a change? We do have an abundance of choice in this country, whereas in the U.S. you have Republican, Democrat, and an independent. But an independent, maybe they could become president, but they don't have any power, realistically.
Right. Yeah, because there's no party system.
There's no party system for them, right? But in this country, we have an abundance of choice. Well, why not make a new choice? I think, honestly, and I love Merritt Stiles. I love Merritt Stiles. I think she's a really good human being and wants to do good things. But people in Ontario are still a little gun shy about electing an NDP government because of Bob Rae, right? So why not give Mike a shot? Vote Green in the next election. Who's it going to harm? They won't do any harmful things like the Conservative government has done in this province.
Right.
So,
No, but that's why Canadians need to start thinking about Greens as an actual viable option rather than, gee, I wish I could vote for them, but they'll never win. Yeah, but with that attitude, they never will.
Exactly.
Right? It's like you have to make the change. Now, here's the other thing that's not really good for Mr. Singh is that even if he wants to go at the end of March, this tariff thing's a 1-2 punch, as we learned. Right? There was the thing, do what we need you to do on fentanyl and on migrants, or else you get a 25% thing slapped. Because, well, it looks like we're going to get it slapped on regardless. So we jumped up and down and we offered him $1.3 billion of free stuff, and it made no difference. Why did we do that? You should learn from that, right? Until there's a specific ask. Yeah, we heard you, and then keep waiting until he says more. Don't say more. Just leave dead air and let him fill it.
Yes.
But there's two things in that order. The second thing is that executive order he signed asked people to review stuff and to come back to him by April 1st. That's the part of how he's going to use tariffs to try to make companies leave Canada or any other country and set themselves more in the United States. So Parliament is supposed to reconvene on March 27th. What do you think that 4 days before April 1st, when the order and the report is supposed to come down and there might be new measures coming down, that Trump will not be hinting and toying and teasing us and taunting us about it for about 2 or 3 weeks prior? So 25%. Yesterday he said 25% to start and maybe going up.
Maybe going up.
So when we get, again, what incentive is there for the Liberal Party to bring back Parliament now, to pass the measures now, as Mr. Singh requests, to leave the option for Mr. Singh to still take down the government on his schedule at the end of March? Because as we might already have pain from tariffs and possibly increasing pain, at least the threat of increasing pain, at the time that Mr. Singh says he wants to vote down the government. What are the odds that Mr. Singh actually is going to vote down the government in these contexts? Mr. Singh really should be gaming this out, because what he said yesterday helps him get through that nanosecond.
Mm-hmm.
But once the tariffs come down, let's say they do come down tomorrow, then now, Mr. Singh, these tariffs are now a reality. Now are you willing to say? He's just gonna get the question, and he's going to have to swallow himself eventually if he really does want to provide this aid to workers and Canadian businesses. And while he's there, what excuse will he have to not pass measures to strengthen our election and to increase our access to the ballot box? And then by the time we get to there, end of March, well, it's going to be a couple of days before pharmacare is supposed to start. Does he really want to pull the plug 2-3 days before pharmacare is supposed to start? That's going to look good in the media. Like,
You
there's
think?
nothing set up for him. Bite the bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Do it now. At the end of January. And maybe by October, people will have had a chance to forget. Or get over being mad at you for having done it. But if you set yourself up to swallow yourself up whole another 2 or 3 times along the track, you are done. You're done. This thing you are doing, I force the Liberals to do stuff, and I'm standing against the Liberals, and I'm going to take them down, and I'm the tough guy. That's not you. It's not working for you, Gretchen.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making fetch happen. This is bite the bullet. Be fully on Team Canada. You have one more chance to save yourself on the sublime confidence thing. Change your narrative. We made an agreement. We decided to work together for the betterment of Canadians because situations demanded it. We've got Trump back. The situation demands it again. We are willing to work together for the betterment of Canadians. You elected a minority parliament for a reason, because you wanted us to work together. We heard you. We're working together. All these stuff that we said, we've been telling you for the last 2 years that we forced the Liberals to do, we did it collaboratively.
And they seem to leave that out of the conversation. Right?
There's still a path where people might be able to forget that you've been trying to take the credit for everything for the last 2 years. If you just start sharing the credit and working together with the government to make sure that we have a stable country while Trump is unleashing his worst on us in the first few weeks. This is the shock and awe period of his presidency. He wants to overwhelm us to make us feel that the worst is to come and it's inevitable. We just roll over and die because he's just too strong and it's just all coming at us too fast. But at some point, he's going to have to start he's going to start having some domestic issues, and his attention is going to start to be divided.
Well, when we go back to when Mr. Singh decided he was going to tear up the agreement, and he went on and on about that after he had read the full unredacted NSICOP report on foreign interference, the way he was talking, I was thinking, like, does he have dirt on somebody? He clearly knows something we don't for him to go down this path. And as it turns out, that's not really the case. So
he turned out to be one of the people who overbloated, as Justice Ho said.
So I need to know. It's like, what was he thinking with this? Does somebody whisper into his ear, "Hey, you're the man. You're the man. You're the man. You're the man. You're going to win. You're the guy." And he started to believe it. It makes me question where his logic is in this, because to do what he did was stupid. I mean,
right?
When he did that, I thought, well, maybe he knows something we don't. He's got some damning evidence, and we're going to find out about it eventually. And maybe he can form the next government because the existing one is, corrupt or what. But no, that wasn't the case at all. So it's like, what the hell, man? Who's running the show there that says to you, this is a good time to tear up the agreement?
What the hell?
What the hell?
What the hell? So, into the record. Oh, what the hell you say? What the hell you say? So, Mr. Evan Scrimshaw has a few thoughts. Now, if you've been following the show for a while, you will probably remember that Mr. Scrimshaw doesn't have much left for Mr. Singh.
No.
But this one is pretty good. The NDP's crisis of their own making. Quote, His leadership has been an abject failure, and if he is given a third crack at running a national campaign, it should be a source of national shame that the Canadian left is so okay with preening nonsense and TikTok virality over seriousness and proper advocacy for the Canadians who need a better government than the Liberals would provide without a left-wing check on their power. That's the quote of his. He highlights.
Hmm.
Quote, I wrote that the Thursday after the Canadian election in a piece that was clear on the need for Jagmeet Singh to resign. The need for any actual powerful New Democrats to say the same has been the one thing that has been staggeringly clear ever since that election, and their collective refusal of the things that has shocked me ever since. Refusal, one of the things that has shocked me ever since. Others have been on the train since election night, including friend of the site Max Fawcett. But this is a party that clearly does not care about what outsiders, even when they voted NDP in 2021, like I did, think. And that's why it has stumbled along ever since. Its head in the clouds, or more accurately, up its own ass. It is incurious almost to a fault, a party that has denied bad by-election results and poll-based seat projections with an innumeracy that would make even the most dedicated grifters shocked. For a party that claims to be about thinking bigger and bolder than the neoliberal corporate captured duopoly, it is a party that embodies the idea of doing nothing because to do anything is hard when it comes to who leads it. The thing that is most obvious to me is that nobody outside of the NDP thinks Jagmeet is a good leader. I've said it on countless podcasts and written it before, but if you asked every liberal and conservative in Ottawa what the NDP should do, they'd all say get rid of Jagmeet. If you took an anonymous survey of liberals and conservatives, from the most Polyev-friendly cons through the old PC diehards, from the Chrétienite centrists to orange liberals, nobody honestly answering what the NDP should do would say keep Jagmeet. Nobody. I've written this stat 1,000 times, but outside of Quebec, the NDP won 28 seats in 2015. The supposedly unacceptable result for Tom Mulcair was 16 seats in Quebec and 28 seats outside of it. Even if you concede the 15 Quebec losses in 2019 were inevitable, which I think is likely but not certain, Jagmeet Singh went backward in 2019 and 2021 compared to Mulcair. Tom Mulcair, the man who was unceremoniously dumped for this unconscionable failure, is both such a failure and a high water mark even solely in English Canada that little Jagmeet could never have been expected to reach, apparently. Ouch. Plenty of the problems the NDP have aren't really Jagmeet's fault, and it's worth pointing that out. I did this rant when Coletta was on the podcast this week, and if you're a longtime reader, I'm sure you can do it from memory now. But Jagmeet is not responsible for the structural reality that the NDP are two parties stuck together by first past the post, or the fact that cultural politics matter a lot more than it did 10 to 20 years ago. Voters are increasingly prioritizing cultural values in how they vote more than they did then, which makes the NDP uncomfortable. They hold together a coalition of urban progressives and students who They hold together a coalition of urban progressives and students who, to take a prominent example, think that Israel is committing a genocide while having to hold seats in places like Northern Ontario and non-Vancouver, Victoria, BC, where the majority of opinion of I'm tripping over my tongue. In non-Vancouver, Victoria, BC, where the majority opinion of their voters is not going to be nearly as pro-Palestinian. I do not think there was any leader who was going to be able to put together a coalition of Powell River and Parkdale in 2025, and pretending he could have is unfair. But what's not unfair to point out is that he didn't even try to grapple with the positions the party finds itself in. There's no effort to strengthen the party in rural Canada, even as MPs decide not to run again. There's no lip service paid to the regions, and there's no effort to even consider the implications of the leadership's decisions. He makes unilateral decisions that make no sense, as today shows. He is going to vote for a throne speech to vote for tariff relief measures before voting against the government, even though he said he'd vote against the government for an election at the earliest opportunity, repeatedly, including last week, to David Cochrane. Definitionally, voting for tariff relief measures requires not voting against the government at the earliest opportunity, but he still claims he's going to vote against the government at the earliest opportunity. Clear as mud. That's my problem with them too. Just take a position and stick to it. The problem for the NDP is well litigated, but the fervent nature of that criticism doesn't change its truth. Every conversation about the NDP, this entire parliament has lived in a weird bubble where they're led by someone who isn't very obviously a failure and a liar. Singh's willingness to lie to all of us, to declare that he is in opposition to a government he has propped up for 3 years, to debase himself and his party on a weekly and honestly sometimes daily basis is unworthy of support and worthy of contempt. All of these notions that the NDP could take advantage of liberal disaster were and rooted in the idea the NDP could even take advantage of an opportunity. In the current context, they're the opportunity to be taken advantage of. They're polling in British Columbia, where a majority of their 25 MPs have seats, is atrocious, meaning they're facing losing 8 seats there. Toss in bad trends in Northern Ontario and 2 huge retirements there, and party status is genuinely line bump. The party is in a genuine crisis and could be facing a significantly harder road back if their remaining caucus is significantly less working class and more focused on leftist foreign policy and social values. Hell, Singh is losing by every credible seat projection service I've seen, including my own. The reason this is so fucking aggravating is that this was knowable. It was knowable the whole time, and that's not just nonsense revisionism, because this article literally quotes from a September 2021 article. The thing is, the NDP have provided a better government this time around than the majority Liberal Parliament. The COVID Parliament is impossible to assess for obvious reasons, and yet they will get destroyed, and deservedly so. We so often bemoan the death of honesty, integrity, and candor in our politics, but the reason they're in short supply is we don't hold politicians we like to standards. Jagmeet Singh has lied to us constantly. He has deceived, he has lied, he has pretended that words don't mean what they actually mean. But because he has done it all in the veneer of progressivism, the fire hose of misleading statements, disinformation, bad ideas, and outright lies isn't treated as the affront it is. The NDP's current crisis was knowable and known from the second they allowed him to claim the 2021 election was a success. They just didn't listen, and now they're about to be powerless, leaderless, reduced in seats, and irrelevant to help a single soul. He's not wrong. He is not wrong.
No, he's not.
Mr. Singh is unable to read a room.
Certainly appears that way. I mean,
again, and here we are. And I said, as I said on the show, right? Like, there's this guy that came in on the chat and says, "Oh, you like liberals?" Like, yeah. Have you seen my choices?
you're saying that as if it's a bad thing.
It's like, it's almost by default. We have an NDP leader who has delusions of grandeur, and we have a Conservative Party leader who literally hates us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, literally hates us.
We have a Bloc Québécois guy who every now and then decides to play footsie with racism. And then we have a Green Party leader who's kicking all kinds of ass, but nobody wants to vote for him because their party can't win. Le choix s'impose, as we say in French. All you have to do is walk into a room with in a 3-piece suit and a briefcase and not say a word. And you look like the adult in the room, because these motherfuckers are crazy.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. I know I shouldn't be using crazy in that sense.
It's fine.
But, like, come on, man. We got Mr. Singh, who can't read a room, and we have Mr. Polyev, who's incapable of pivoting and meeting the moment.
Well, he won't do
What
anything
choice
that's
do you
to further
have?
his cause. You know, what Pierre Poilievre fails to understand. Well, I mean, to begin with, he doesn't identify as Canadian. He identifies as conservative first.
Which is a problem.
And he will not govern for all Canadians. He will only govern for conservatives. He is a vindictive little shit, just like Donald Trump is.
Thank you.
And I'm sure he has a list, an enemies list, much like Richard Nixon had. I can damn well guarantee it, that if he were to assume power, he would go after everybody that's ever wronged him. He is a vindictive little shit. And if he ever became prime minister, we would all suffer for it. And he already said he will reverse every policy that the government of Canada, the Liberal Party, the current ruling party, has brought forward. So pharmacare, childcare, dental care, the child tax credit, school lunch programs, all say goodbye to them. All of it. Oh, And you got to remember, he's also on the Trump train when it comes to DEI.
Yes. And deporting people.
Yes. You want to see how bad things can get in this country? Elect him. Elect a conservative government. If you think it's bad in the U.S. right now, and we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg because it's only 2 weeks since he assumed office, since he took office, since he was sworn in, 2 weeks, and we've seen what he's done. Pierre Poilievre would be no damn different. Now, there are limitations because he doesn't have the same powers as the president, but how much you want to bet he would want to tear down the Westminster system to form a republic? How much you want to bet he would do that? And a friend of mine constantly points out, you know, the U.S. system of government is based on the old Roman system, the Roman Empire system. That one didn't exactly succeed, so maybe they should have designed it on something else. And a great quote I read the other day from somebody says, well, if you don't accept capitalism, you'll have nothing but socialism. And somebody said, you know, why don't we try something that's not from the 19th century?
Right?
Maybe a new system.
We're allegedly the smartest we've ever been. Maybe, how about we come up with something new then? If all the past systems were terrible,
let's try something new.
It's not like we're not inventive and creative as a species.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. All right. So this is the Jagmeet Singh thing. Parallel to that, of course, we have the Liberal leadership race. And, well, there's been some developments here because yesterday was the 30th of January, and that was a deadline because it was the deadline for the candidates to submit their extra $50,000 deposit and or to pull out of the race and get the first $50,000 refunded. But if they give the $50,000 at this point on the 30th, keep going, they're in the race and there's no ability to have the money refunded. I do not know specifically what the party is intending to do with Ruby Dalla. It seems that she is confirmed, but since then she has been posting a whole bunch of weird memes saying that she is essentially Donald Trump in heels or something like that, or Donald Trump in dress.
Yeah, that one's astonishing.
And she's making these. Well, Joe Warmington called her this, and then she made a meme out of it as promoting herself as this. So clearly, this is a very intentionally hostile campaign. And I know that party executive can't eliminate candidates if they don't seem to believe in the mandate of the party or not prepared to represent real liberal values, which appears to be the case. And 10 days would be around February 2nd or so. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if the party is going to disqualify her at some point, but okay. But according to this here, and this is the Hill Times, the field of candidates for the federal Liberal leadership contest narrowed with the arrival of the January 30th deadline for the $50,000 non-refundable deposit when, and this one breaks my heart, Liberal MP Jaime Batiste dropped out of the race.
Yeah, I'm sad that he dropped out, but I think he's aware that it's not winnable.
I know, but he knew that from the beginning. That's not why he was running, though.
Right. He knew it wasn't winnable. He did know that from the beginning, but it got his hat in the ring. It got his name out there, and he'll be considered for future, definitely.
Yes. But it was going to finally normalize having Indigenous voices running for party leaderships.
Well, and you know,
but should always be there.
I read something yesterday about how, or last night I should say, about how ICE in the U.S. is approaching Indigenous people looking for their papers in Arizona. Navajo. It's like, my people have been here for 30,000 years. What is your problem? This is my land. We allow you to live on it.
If you can't tell the difference between an Indigenous person and a Mexican, you might be a racist.
You might be a redneck if.
Oh, my God. Batiste from Sydney, Victoria, Nova Scotia, the first Indigenous candidate to run for the federal Liberal leadership, said he was proud to throw his hat in the ring, but after careful consideration decided the best way to advocate and advance his priorities was to back leadership candidate Mark Carney. Batiste released a statement at 5:07 p.m. on January 30th. Earlier in the day, one Liberal source told the Hill Times that it's tough to raise money, especially when it's such a short race. Quote, "I know how hard it is to raise money," said one senior Liberal helping out one of the candidates. Quote, "You better have a pretty strong Rolodex of people who are willing to pay. You better have 200 supporters who are willing to give you the maximum allowed." According to Elections Canada rules, an individual can donate a maximum of $1,750 to a political party, $1,750 to all writing associations, nomination contestants, and candidates of each political party, and another $1,750 to all leadership contestants in a particular contest. To enter the Liberal leadership contest, each candidate must submit a $350,000 deposit to the party. Of this, $50,000 is refundable and has already been paid by the 6 approved candidates on January 23rd, while the remaining $300,000 is non-refundable. A second $50,000 installment was due by January 30th, followed by 2 payments of $125,000 on February 7th and 17th. Additionally, candidates can spend up to $5 million on campaign expenses. While the 2-month leadership contest spending limit seems high, a party spokesperson said that candidates may face inflated vendor costs due to tight deadlines, and a lower cap might restrict access to necessary services. Quote, "For your awareness, the CPC spending limit in 2022 was $7 million, wrote Parker Lund, Liberal Party's Director of Communications, in an interview with the Hill Times. Quote, "In a short time frame, campaigns could endure increased or premium prices from vendors, and the committees didn't want to add additional obstacles within the expedited race." It's true. According to the leadership election rules, all contribution checks must be sent directly to the party office. The party does not take a share of the first $500,000 raised, but imposes 25% fee on any amount beyond that. Also, candidates cannot exceed a debt limit of $200,000 at any time. To qualify in the Liberal leadership race, 7 candidates submitted their paperwork and a $50,000 deposit to the party. Of these, 6 have been approved, while 1 has been disqualified. The approved candidates include former Bank of Canada and Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, who represents University Rosedale, former Government House Leader Karina Gould, who represents Burlington, businessman and former Montreal Liberal MP Frank Baylis, and former Brampton Liberal MP Ruby Dahl. The Liberal Party did not approve the candidacy of Liberal MP Chandra Arya, from representing the riding of PM, but has not offered a specific reason. In an emailed response to the Hill Times, the party cited Section 4C of the leadership rules that state that a candidate can be disallowed to seek the party's top job if they are found to be, quote, "manifestly unfit for the office of Liberal leader." The reasons could include, quote, "any public statements, past improper conduct, a lack of commitment to democracy, or other reputational or legal jeopardy according to the rules." So why is Ruby Della in the race? Just saying.
I don't know.
After his disqualification, Arya issued a statement on social media platform X on January 26, blasting the party for its decision, adding that the move raises serious questions about, quote, "the legitimacy of the leadership contest." No, who was your candidacy that did, honey? Was your candidacy? Sorry, Boo Boo Kitty, but yeah, you can't flip this one. The winner of the March 9th leadership contest will succeed outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Hill Times I'm not sure why it says the telehealth, but it gives a photograph credit there because there's no photo in the article. Quote, "Today I was informed by the Liberal Party of Canada that I will not be permitted to enter the leadership race for Arya. While I await their official communication, I am carefully considering my next steps. This decision raises significant questions about the legitimacy of the leadership race and, by extension, the legitimacy of the next Prime Minister of Canada. I remain steadfast in my commitment to working hard for the benefit of all Canadians. With a focused approach, I will continue striving to ensure a secure and prosperous future for the generations to come." Yeah, sure. Thank you. Next. Arya. I'm not impressed with her. I'm just not. God. And it's like right on the way out, too. It's like, oh, well, the legitimacy of the next leader is not going to be called into question. Thank you, Prime Minister Modi. Because that sounds exactly like something Prime Minister Modi would say. Mr. Arya. It's like the Canadian mouth is moving, but Modi words are coming out.
Indeed.
Yeah. Let's see. Yes, of course. Arya was not available for an interview for this article since his ex post. He has not publicly announced what his next steps would be. Yes, yes, understandably. Yes. Because right now, at least for now, your nomination papers are still signed to be able to run as an MP. Maybe that will change.
Something I want to address here, because I don't know if you can see it. Tom Trask just put a comment in that I have on the screen. It says, yes, I'm just disagreeing with Douglas saying if you can't tell the difference between Indigenous Americans and Mexicans, you might be a racist claim. And I know why he's done this, because he said earlier, and it is factually correct, there
Yes.
are Indigenous Mexicans.
Yes.
And I have met tribal elders from Mexico who were
Yes.
here in Ottawa. I can't give you any more details than that, but I've sat in on a lot of meetings with Indigenous peoples from across North America. And there's an international Indigenous peoples organization. The name is escaping me at the moment, and I've met some of those individuals too. So yeah, I think we were just quick off the draw on that one. Is all.
Yes. Well, and yeah,
From his-
I've met individuals from Oaxaca as well, but they're. Let me phrase it this way: if you live in Arizona, and every person that you meet that's already brown or reddish, you assume cannot possibly be an Indigenous person, you might
Then
be a
you're-
racist.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's a better
If they all
qualification.
look Mexican to you,
Yes. There you go. Yes. There you go.
where we're going. Yeah, but good point. Thank you for bringing it up because that is actually factually.
It is.
more
It's
accurate.
gentle correction.
It's a gentle
We
correction.
make mistakes, and when we make mistakes, we're going to fully admit it and apologize and make amends, because this is who we are as people.
Yep, absolutely. No, good. Thank you for bringing it up. So yes, in an earlier interview with the Hill Times, we're talking about Jamie Baptiste here at this time now. He said he was receiving strong support for his candidacy from Indigenous and other communities across the country. To conserve campaign funds, he said he was limiting travel and relying primarily on technology for outreach. Describing himself jokingly as, quote, a telemarketer on steroids, he said he wakes up daily to connect with as many people as possible to ask for their support and to raise funds. However, the Nova Scotia MP would not confirm whether he would have enough money to make the non-refundable $50,000 deposit. I never tell media how much I've got to keep my poker cards close to my chest, but I'm looking forward to continuing, said Baptiste. Bayless told the Hill Times that he has already raised enough funds to cover his second deposit and that he is confident he would secure the full $350,000 needed, along with additional campaign expenses. In the coming days, he plans to travel across the country to meet with supporters and attend fundraisers. Recently, Bayless completed a tour of Quebec, Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. And one thing I want to mention here is because everybody's saying, hey, this is a liberal race that doesn't have a candidacy from Quebec. Well, it does, actually. Frank Bayless. It's not particularly well known, but there is actually a candidacy candidate from Quebec in the race. Quote, it's going to be amazing. It's going very good, said Bayless, who launched his campaign on January 30th in Montreal. The Liberal leadership election will be held on March 9th in the newly reconfigured 344 federal ridings, though it remains unclear whether voting will take place in person, online, or both. This race will mark the first election under the new ridings, albeit as an inter-party contest. The next general election will also follow the 343 riding structure, whereas the House currently has 338. So there you go. So yes, unfortunately, we lost Jamie Heine Baptiste. And I've got a CBC article here, and I'm just looking to see if there's more from here. There's a quote that says, when I began this journey, it was not only to make history again, but to ensure that key and important priorities were at the forefront of this leadership race, Baptiste said in a new statement published on Thursday. In endorsing Mark, my fight is not over. It is only just beginning. Baptiste, who's a member of the Eskasoni First Nation, was first elected in 2019. He serves as chair of the Liberal Party's Indigenous Caucus and was the first Mi'kmaq elected to the House of Commons. He is also a former regional chief with the Assembly of First Nations. Initially, he said he decided to throw his hat in the ring after receiving encouragement from Indigenous leaders across the country. He noted he wanted to become Prime Minister to fight for key Liberal policies, including the National Programs for Pharmacare, Dental Care, Affordable Childcare, and the National School Food Policy. Dalla said on Thursday, Ruby Dalla, in a post that she was sorry to see Baptiste end his campaign. Quote, As a champion of the First Nations, I was proud to see a voice of the Indigenous community in the race. I look forward to being a strong voice for First Nations as I believe they need results, not noise, she wrote. All right. Well, I'll give Ruby Daly one thing. She's good at getting her name in the press.
She's never met a camera or a microphone she didn't like.
But she's good because, hey, there are 5 candidates and she's the only one that gets quoted.
Although, how to address this issue? On her campaign website for a Liberal leader, there's a photograph of her, which looks nothing like her in real life.
Yep.
That's a little disturbing to me.
Yep.
I mean, there's an issue at play there. I'm not mocking or making fun of. I'm just pointing out a visible truth. The photo of her on the website does not look anything like what she looks like.
Yep.
So that should be cause for concern, I think, because you're being dishonest with your appearance to begin with, which is a little bit, it's concerning to me. And then, of course, Joe Warmington calling her Trump of the North, and she's campaigning on that. If somebody called me Trump of the North, I'd have to go put my blue jacket on and have a discussion with that person. I would not take that as an endorsement or a compliment at all.
No. That's why I'm saying, why is the party not disqualified? Clearly, she does not support the values of the party.
Well, and, she's proud to say she's the Trump of the North. You've not seen this video yet, sir. It's a 46-second clip. You got to see this to believe it.
Okay.
It's going to blow your mind.
Your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir.
In other words, white.
So he just signed an executive order that blames the Biden government for an accident that happened under his watch. After he had, after he had done this, Trump fires heads of TSA, Coast Guard, and GOOOOOOOOOOOoooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooooohouse. To remake the Department of Homeland Security by firing the heads of the Transportation Security Administration and Coast Guard before their terms are up, while eliminating all the members of a key aviation security advisory group. And then he blamed Pete Buttigieg, who is no longer the Secretary of Transportation.
Right.
I'm not responsible for anything. We've heard him say that before.
Yeah.
And he kind of just did it again. Everybody else, he lays the blame at the feet of everybody and accepts no responsibility for anything. And this man leads the most powerful nation on earth.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Let's be honest. DEI is the new N-word.
Yes, and the thing that's killing me right now that I can't stop, and I feel guilty for laughing about this, but it's the amount of white women who are suddenly finding themselves unemployed because they're DEI hires. And they're like, "What? But I'm not black." No.
You have a vagina. You have a vajayjay.
Oh,
Do you not notice they don't like people with vajayjays very much?
It's astonishing how many people have literally voted for the Leopards Eating Faces party who now are getting their faces eaten and are really upset about it. Like, we told you this. We told you this would happen. You didn't listen because you thought this guy hates the same people I do. I'll be okay. No. Gilead is well on its way.
And here's the kicker, is that with regard to this particular accident, apparently everybody involved was white.
Yes.
The pilots were white. The air traffic controllers were white.
Yes.
But
DEI
the
had
colored
nothing
people
to
did
do
it.
with it. Nothing to do with it. But he actually went on in a press conference in the White House, blamed DEI. And they said, "Are you seriously? Why?" He goes, "Because I have common sense." No, you don't. You're a hateful, bitter old man who doesn't like it when somebody gets an opportunity and proves that they have earned that opportunity and proves they have earned that job because they have to meet the qualification levels. DEI means they're giving opportunities to people who've never had the opportunity before, but you still have to qualify. It's not like, I'd like to be a surgeon. Here you go. You're new, the head of surgery for the Ottawa Heart Institute. Did you go to medical school? No, but I'm a trans man. Oh, there you go. Now it's yours. It's not how it works, people.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. You need to qualify. You need to have the expertise in the field in order to be considered for the position.
Yeah. And here's the question that kills, right? If Biden hired, this is Tristan Snell on Twitter. If Biden hired so many unqualified FAA employees, as Trump says, then why were there 0 commercial airline accidents in the U.S. during Biden's administration? What's that? What, a little closer. Sorry, I can't hear. What? Nothing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, those terrible DEIs.
The entire Trump
That
cabinet
presided over 0 accidents through the entire Biden thing. I guess you're in there 2 weeks, and 2 things crash into each other.
Yes.
But the black people did it.
The entire cabinet is DEI for the most part. I mean, seriously, like Pete Hegseth, come on. Are you serious? That's the most DEI you're going to get. The man is grossly unqualified for the position.
If we're broadening the definition of diversity, yeah, he's diverse. Just not in all the ways we like. All right, Mr. Grizzly. Let's get to Miss Karina Gold because she's waited long enough.
Okay. I have the clip.
Here's the thing. I understand. Right? There's a whole section. Karina Gold, like her, not ready, not her time yet. I get it. She's probably not going to win. That part I get. I also get there's a reality of the system, right? There's 343 writings because they're doing it in the 343. There's 100 points for each writing. And there's a very, very short amount of time. The people that can get the most sort of cabinet and MP endorsements because they all have networks that will go out and work on their writings for the people are probably people that have the best advantage. In that sense, Mark Carney's got the most by far, then Chrystia Freeland, and Karina Gold has a few. Now there's everybody else who pretty much don't have anyone, right? So on the basis of the people with networks working behind her alone, Chrystia Freeland right now looks that at least she's at least a lock for second. But based on the quality of the campaigning, and if Karina Gold gets out there, it is not unfathomable that she could pull ahead of Chrystia Freeland for second, based on the strength of the campaign. Right? So,
well, I mean, Chrystia Freeland did not help herself by trying to say she's a political outsider. I'm like, what?
I don't know.
Chrystia, don't drink the bong water.
Stop framing. Just be you.
I love her, but oh my God.
No, it's the wrong frame. It's just the wrong frame.
Terrible.
Wrong frame. So, but it's an opening for Karina Gould. Now, again, I'm not saying she is going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying she's a candidate who might deserve to.
Yes.
Right? But not that she's going to. She's a very quality candidate, and we should be paying attention to her. And she is finding ways because she, said about 10 days before, she wasn't. If you've seen her in interview since, right? She had a meeting with Jean Chrétien, and they were talking. He's the one that encouraged her to go ahead, and she started looking at it. So, like 10 days before, came the time to say, I'm going to run with finality. She wasn't considering anything. So, she doesn't have a huge team, right, behind her. But with what she's doing a lot. She's going onto small podcasts. She's getting lots of TV interviews, and she's taking some policy positions that, while right, may not be enough or may not be the wisest ones or something like that, or you can make a case against them. Like recently, she announced that she wanted to cut 1% off the GST for at least 1 year. Right? But we all know that when you do that type of stuff, it's kind of hard to put it back. And we also know, I maintain that the GST, and when everybody says there's no such thing as a good tax, the GST is actually a good tax.
Yes, it is.
Right.
And Brian Mulroney did almost break his arm patting himself on the back, saying, I will be recognized in the future as a man who helped save Canada. He's correct. It's just a little unbecoming to do that.
Yes.
But he was correct. Look, as much as we all hate it, we realize how desperately needed it was. And we also have to recognize that it did reduce prices right across the board, because the hidden manufacturer's tax, which was 13 or 14%, was wiped, and only 7% was placed. So it literally cut down by 6 or 7%. Goods that we brought into the country, goods we manufactured in the country. Because I was working for a company at the time called Wackett Radio. They're no longer around, but they sold TVs and stereos. You remember? Yeah. And when the GST came in, there was a big panic at Christmas time. And Christmas is usually the biggest time of the year. It always is for retailers. But we sold more that Christmas than at any other time in the history of the company. And people were panicked because they were like, what's going to happen with the GST? And I'm like, well, technically speaking, prices will probably go down. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, here's why. And we explained it to them, and people, I don't trust it. Okay, I'm happy to sell you this thing. I mean, I get paid either way. So.
Right, exactly.
And then when January rolled around and the GST was implemented, we saw prices drop right across the board.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I can't help but notice the parallels between the GST and the carbon tax. Brought in, good for us, a good tax, hated, because people campaigned on axing it and taking it away.
Yes.
It cost Jean Chrétien, an MP.
Well, it did.
I believe, right?
John Nunziata, who called him out in the House. He stood up in the House of Commons and said, you promised to axe this tax. Why is the GST still in place?
And since then, it's been cut from 7 to 5. And now she's planning to cut it to 4 for 1 year, and that would be hard to bring it back.
It would be difficult to
do that, right? So we're getting to a point now where eventually the GST, it'll just take much longer, but it might end up going the way to the carbon tax, because everybody say, hey, let's just cut another 1% off it. Hey, let's just cut another. Hey, that's great. But then again, when there's no more 1% to cut off the GST, then what do you do? Right? This is only going to last so long. The GST's at 5. There's only 5 more cracks at this. And after that, you're going to have to come up with something new.
Well, and let's remember that the GST for small businesses, when the GST was first implemented in, was it 1990?
Yes.
Okay, so when it was first implemented?
91, I think.
90 or 91, I can't remember. Anyway, if you were a small business, I think it was 91, you're correct. If you were a small business, if your sales were over $35,000, you had to charge GST.
Right.
That was reasonable at the time. And they said, and what we'll do is each year we'll examine it and we'll adjust accordingly and raise that number as it is fitfully seen. Well, here's the thing. They do that work. They examine it every year and see what it should be, but they've never changed it. It's still 35,000. You know what it was in 2012? 2012, 2010. 2010. There's a gentleman I knew who had worked on that file and said, as of 2008, because that was the latest numbers he had. He said that as of 2008, that cutoff should be $150,000.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if your business is earning less than $35,000, then that's not your main source of income.
Exactly.
That's a side hustle.
Right.
Now, you could have 5 side hustles going, each one of them keeping the sales to $34,999.
Yes.
Never charging GST or collecting it or remitting it or doing that extra paperwork. That is a workaround. I'm not saying that you should do that.
But then you got five business taxes.
Not saying you should do that, but well, and some people are so anti-tax that they would do that. And I'm like, but you're creating a lot of extra work for yourself. I don't care. I don't want to pay the tax. All right, fine. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Except you're going to pay the tax because everything you buy is going to have it on there.
Right.
You're still paying it, man.
Right. So, and like I said, the GST then was a manufacturer's sales, a manufacturing tax that was hidden. This now carbon tax, if we get rid of it, it's going to end up being a hidden price. And so there's so many parallels between the GST and the carbon price that I noticed. But the thing with this policy is that for that 1 year, right, reducing the GST by 1% takes $11 billion out of the Treasury in one spot, at a time where there are tariffs and we might need to be compensating people. So, like I said, might not sometimes be the wisest policies, or they're at least policies that somebody can make a counter case. And maybe she has a good defense for them. Maybe she can stand up to them because she hasn't been challenged on them yet. This is relatively new announcement. But they are announcements that do cut through,
right,
and do get her the coverage, right? And you can make a case for them if you want, right? So it's because you're going to say, well, you're going to take $11 billion out of the Treasury. Yes, but people need affordability help now, because that money will get pumped back into the economy. So there is an intellectual, honest debate to be had about these things, even though it does. But that policy would open the door to an attack. Yes, now she's got a response for it, fine. But she's got those policies. Same thing with carbon price, right? She's saying that she wants to freeze it for now.
Right.
She's saying because what we're doing right now does account for about 10% of our reductions. You can't just stop that. So maybe she is open that if somebody can come up with something equivalent, that she's willing to remove the carbon tax, so that's so long as we don't lose the emissions. But she's focused on the emissions. Like whatever things that we do, this cannot affect the 10% reduction that we have right now. So I'm prepared to cap it because we have already got that 10%. That locks it in, at least for 1 year, and then we'll see. Maybe she's willing to cap it until such time as there is an alternative, and that it could show and it's put in place, and we see that it reaches 10%, and then she removes the other one, right? There's more that she can do with this, that she can evolve. But again, it's a policy where everybody's saying we're going to scrap it. It says, no, I will stop. I will keep what's there and stop the increase. That opens up a whole other lane, right? So you never know. She's got some interesting policies. Mr. Grizzly, I don't know if you have the timestamps as well.
Yes, I do. I've got the first one up and ready to go.
All right, so let's start with the first one. This is Karina Gould at her launch. I'm going to step away for a couple of seconds because I have to plug the computer back in.
Oh, okay. No problem. Yeah. Let's do this then. I'll just minimize this. We don't need to be on screen while we listen to Karina.
Karina, you talked about climate change in your video. We've heard, there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about the carbon tax and what to do with it. Some other leadership contenders have said they would suggested they would scrap the consumer price. What is your position on that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Look, I think what's incredibly important is that for Liberals, and quite frankly for Canadians across this country.
That's definitely not the beginning.
That was the first timestamp you gave me.
That's
the first timestamp in the email that you sent. That's where I started it.
But that's for the
You
Q&A.
wanted to start at the beginning.
Not at the beginning, like 3 minutes.
Oh, well, no, the first timestamp I had was like 17 something. So you understand.
No, it says start. No, first thing in the email says start 3:15.
Oh, it does. I was looking at the one directly below that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was the first line at the top. I just saw the YouTube link and everything below that. So you can understand my confusion?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
All right. Bear with me while I get that set up here. It'll take a second or two.
All right. So she did this in a small venue in Burlington. And you'll see that it's a cozy venue. She picked a venue that has the right size to make it appear that it's full and all that kind of stuff. So this was well planned as a campaign.
Indeed.
Okay. Hi, Burlington! Bonjour tout le monde. Merci pour être ici avec moi. My name is Karina Gould, and I'm running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Je m'appelle Karina Gould et je me présente pour être la prochaine chef du Parti libéral du Canada.
Wait there for a second.
I
Just want to point out here, again, no notes, right? Not the first of all the candidates that I saw who seemed to be happy to be at her own launch.
Oh, I think Mark
Hi,
Carney was.
My name
too.
is Mark Carney, and I'm running for. That's
He's
what I mean.
just a deeply serious man. But I
I
think
know.
But yeah,
I
she
know.
looks genuinely happy. You're right.
Genuinely happy. And I also want you to note that when she introduced herself in French, not like I do.
Mhm.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Douglas Connors. It's still my same name, right? Je m'appelle Karina Gould.
Yes, she put the accent on it.
Right. Like this. So she's really. You don't Frenchify your name when you pronounce it in French. Like this, if you're not all in.
Right.
I'm all in, but Douglas Connors sounds really weird. I just go by
that doesn't work. No.
But Karina is a name in French, right? As well,
and my name, I don't think you could Frenchify a super Anglo name like Paul Atkinson. I mean, that's as English as it gets, right?
Paul Atkinson.
It doesn't work. All right, we'll go back to the clip.
I am so happy to be here with all of you today. You are the people that believed in me from day one. You are the folks that work hard, that knock on doors, that get out there and talk to Canadians and listen to them. And we're here at a local small business where we have coffee and chats, where we chat with the community. I'm a grassroots politician, and I'm here because of every single one of you. Et je suis tellement fière d'être ici, d'être la députée de Burlington, de vous représenter à l'échelle nationale. And I'm so grateful to be here with my family, with my friends, my colleagues, my supporters. I'm a middle-class kid from Burlington. I grew up here with a mom who was a local veterinarian and a dad who fought for farmers. They taught me the value of hard work, of tenacity, and always fighting for what matters and standing up for Canadian values. It is such a privilege to be the representative of Burlington. It is such a privilege to get to take your voices to Ottawa. And I'm here today to say that I want to take the voices of all Canadians to Ottawa. Je suis un produit de la politique de bilinguisme de ce pays, une politique libérale, donc nous devrons être fiers. Okay. J'ai appris mon français ici à Burlington.
She doesn't repeat English-French, so I have to translate. So she says, I'm a product of the bilingualism system of Canada. I've learned all my French here in Burlington.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
So she's like me, but she's learned all her French in Ontario.
Yeah.
À l'école d'immersion dans le système d'éducation publique. Mes parents m'ont inscrit dans l'école pour apprendre le français parce qu'ils croyaient dans le bilinguisme de ce pays.
Do you want to translate that, sir?
So I learned my French in the immersion system, in the immersion program of the public school system. I had full Francophone French rights because my parents, my mother was Franco-Ontarian. Her parents were not, so she had to go through immersion because her parents believed in the bilingualism of this country, which was the same reason my mother sent me. Says it's a country, it's bilingual, says you need to learn to speak both. I'm sending you to school in French.
Yeah, I didn't, unfortunately didn't have that option when we moved to Newfoundland in 1977. So I was in a good program in Trenton for 2 years, where I was learning and advancing quite well. And then when you move to Newfoundland for 3 years and have zero French instruction until your last year there, and the French instruction was very poor to the fact that I had a teacher correct me when I said 20 ans, and she says, "No, it's 20
No.
Yes,
No.
and insisted, "It's 20 I'm like, "It's 20 ans. No, madame, it's 20 ans. No, 20 I'm like, okay. So I knew more than the teacher did, and it, anyway.
Yeah.
Et ce n'est pas parce qu'il était francophone, non. Mes parents sont des anglophones, des raïces allemandes et tchèques. Mais ils savaient que notre pays est basé sur les deux langues officielles et que être Canadien, c'est d'appuyer, de comprendre que l'anglais et le français sont deux langues importantes dans notre pays et ça fait une part intégrale, primordiale de qui nous sommes.
Basically, my parents sent me to immersion not because they were francophones, no, they were whatever, Czech and their backgrounds, but because they believed that both official language were primordial. It was part of the Canadian identity, and that it was crucial that we learn.
My grandparents came to this country after World War II. They arrived with $5 in their pockets, hopes and dreams. They became apple farmers in Lyndon, Ontario. And my grandmother got to see me not just become a member of Parliament, but become a cabinet minister. And my story is the story of so many Canadians whose families might have been here since time immemorial, or maybe they've only been here for 10 years. But it is that dream, that hope, that promise of opportunity and possibility that Canada represents. C'est qui nous sommes comme un peuple. Nous sommes un peuple qui est bienveillant, qui est fort et qui est plein d'opportunités et de possibilités. Et on a créé un pays où tout est possible. Et c'est cet rêve.
It looks like a lot of people in the room understood what she just said.
Yes, I know, right? It says, and this is who we are as a people. We are a well-meaning, strong people full of opportunity and possibility, and it is this possibility, right, that allows us everything.
Et c'est cet rêve pourquoi je me présente pour la prochaine chef du Parti libéral.
And this is the dream.
I want to tell you why I'm a liberal.
And it's this dream that makes it such that I'm running for the Liberal leadership.
I became a Liberal on October 30th, 1995. I was a small child then. But what I can say is I have a very clear memory of the moment I became a Liberal. And for those of you that know that date, it's the date of the Quebec referendum. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting on our living room floor watching the results come in. And I remember the anxiety that I felt as a child, that something was going to happen to my country, that there was a nervousness about the future. And then I remember seeing Prime Minister Jean Chrétien come on television. And I remember feeling relief. But more than anything, I thought, that is a man who fights for Canada. And it was in that moment that I realized that that is the essence of the Liberal Party of Canada. Liberals fight for Canada. Et à ce moment, dans notre pays, face des menaces locaux du Parti conservateur et Pierre Poilievre, qui veut faire des coupeurs dangereuses dans notre pays, qui veut changer.
So in this moment in our country, faced with the threat, particularly from the Conservative Party of Canada, from Pierre Poilievre, that wants to make cuts in, and she's mentioning all the areas where that will happen.
Changer les valeurs canadiennes est quelque chose complètement différent à qui nous sommes et que nous faisons face aux menaces économiques du sud de notre frontière. Qu'est-ce qu'on a besoin maintenant, plus que jamais? Les gens qui se battent pour le Canada.
Also wanting to change the values of our country, as well as the threats coming from the U.S. So what do we need now more than ever? People who will fight for Canada.
And when it comes to standing up and fighting for Canada, I want to say something very clear to anyone who thinks that we should become American. Canada's sovereignty is non-negotiable. Qui que ce soit qui pense que le Canada devrait devenir américain, écoutez-moi. La souveraineté du Canada, ce n'est pas négociable. Now, if I'm being honest with you, we have a big challenge ahead of us. Canadians have lost trust in our party. And if we are going to be able to keep building our country, we must rebuild our party. I became a Liberal at the age of 14 because I believe in Canada. I believe in who we are as a people. I believe in the promise that we represent for the entire world. The Liberal Party of Canada is not a hobby for me. It's not a side project. It is something that I have been working for my entire life, like so many of you in this room and Liberal Party members across the country. Et je veux prendre un moment à parler à nos militants de partout dans notre pays. Je sais que le Parti libéral représente ta manière, ton véhicule d'améliorer le Canada.
So I wanted to give a message to all the militants across the country. I know that the Liberal Party for you is your vehicle to improve Canada.
C'est une opportunité de présenter vos idées, d'avoir des grands débats des politiques et vraiment, les meilleures idées que nous avons eues comme Parti libéral étaient mises sur la table sur les militants libéraux dans les conventions de politique depuis toujours.
So it says, it's an opportunity to present ideas, to debate big ideas, and in all honesty, the best ideas that have come to the Liberal Party have come from the grassroots, from the floor.
And so as we re-engage Canadians, we need to re-engage Liberal members because it is Liberal members across this country who have had some of the greatest debates on our policy convention floors, who have brought forward bold ideas that have moved Canada forward. And that is what I'm asking of you from across the country. Join the party, make a donation, bring your idea forward. I want to hear from you. Because we wouldn't have things like same-sex marriage in this country if it wasn't for the bold ideas of the young Liberals of Canada.
Not wrong.
Damn straight.
We wouldn't have legalized cannabis in this country if it wasn't for the bold ideas of the young liberals of Canada.
Once again, he's not wrong.
Yep.
We wouldn't have had the courage to make reconciliation one of our top priorities if it wasn't for the bold ideas of liberal members across this country. I'm running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada and your future Prime Minister because I want the same things for me and my family that I want for you and yours. I want you to be safe and feel safe in your home and your community. I want you to have a good job that gives you the confidence and the comfort to know that you can pay the bills that you need to pay. I want you to breathe clean air and drink clean water. And I want you to have access to health care when you need it.
You know who she's reminding me of right now?
Who?
Our friend and Liberal Premier of the province of New Brunswick,
Mm-hmm.
Susan Holt.
Yes. Yes. You're getting the Susan Holt bullet vibes, aren't you?
I am. I absolutely am. And I like it.
Yep.
I like it. And I'm going to go on the record once more to say I think Karina Gould is the future of the party. I think she is the future. I don't think she's going to win this time. I think Mark Carney is most likely the front runner.
Yes.
And most likely will win. I believe that. But I think Karina Gould is the future of the party. And next go round, I think she will be the Liberal leader. And I do believe she will be Prime Minister one day. I sincerely believe that. She has the stuff. She's whip smart and doesn't back down from a fight. She breastfed in the House of Commons.
Yep.
That's badass.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do my mothering thing and my job at the same time.
Yep.
Women are strong as hell.
It's like Britney Spears, eh?
Yeah.
Even with the kid on my arm, I'm still an exceptional learner. Are you sure you want a piece of me? Hello, miss.
Ce sont les choses les plus importantes, plus primordiales pour les Canadiens. Et moi, je suis là pour vous, pour le Canada, aujourd'hui, demain et pour les années à venir.
I think she's going to say that in English, the same line. Big line.
I am here for you, for Canada, today, tomorrow, and for years to come.
That's a sign that, I'm staying with
It is
the party.
time
Yes.
for a new generation of leadership, a generation of leadership that brings people along, that reaches out to those who feel they've been left behind, a generation of leadership who's not going to stand behind a podium and read a speech that was prepared by somebody else. No, someone who speaks from the heart. Who puts people, Canadians first, who's not thinking about how we can do this as a bureaucracy in Ottawa, but is thinking about how it impacts people right across the country. I have always felt that the job of a politician is to put the human face on policy. And it is you, the Canadians across this country, who are in my heart every single day.
I do not get a sense of falsehood or hyperbole or insincerity from Karina Gould.
Right?
At all.
That's what I'm saying. She's incredibly likable.
She's sincere. She's real. She's honest. And she is the future, period. I mean, there's no mistaking it. There's no escaping it. She is the future of politics in this country. And she will be Prime Minister one day. I'm convinced of that. I mean, we'd have to be idiots not to give her a mandate.
No notes.
Yeah.
She's doing all this no notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if she memorized it all before, it doesn't look like she's thinking about what she memorized. So it seems like what she's saying, I'm talking from the heart, it looks like that's what she's doing right now.
I think she's an off-the-cuff individual. You know me, I don't like to have notes. I like to just say what's in my mind.
Mhm.
And when given notes, I will certainly work within them, of course. You know, I'm not an
Yes.
asshole, but she's much like me, I think, in the respect that she can literally speak her mind quickly and think quickly and adjust on the fly. She's much better at it than I am by far. I mean, my goodness, look at where it's carried her thus far in her very short life. She's 37.
And how much has she stuttered in her delivery?
Not at all. Not once. No
She's
stammering, no
good.
stuttering, no ums, no ahs, no hesitation. Just flows naturally. She's
She is
good at
good.
this. She's good at this.
Maintenant, pour une nouvelle génération de leadership en ce pays. Et je vous demande, joignez-moi à cette nouvelle génération de leadership, puisqu'on peut travailler ensemble, puisqu'on peut rêver de toute la possibilité qui est le potentiel du Canada.
So join me for this because we can work together for, reaching the highest potential of Canada.
Join me. Visit karinagould.ca. Sign up. Get your membership.
Too late now.
Donate. Okay? Volunteer. Because together we can rebuild this party so that we can keep building our country, and we can rebuild this party so that we can re-earn the trust of Canadians and build the Canada that we want and win the next election.
So pause up there. So the Q&A section will come next. I just saw a quote here, something from the kits in the chat. Kit Linda M. It must be really insulting to Francophone Ontarians that Doug doesn't even provide French translation of any appearances. Yes. And for the French language debate, it's even great. Because last time there was a French language debate in Ontario, none of the party leaders spoke French, so they each had somebody from the party or a spokesperson there talking, so we didn't even get to hear from the premiers.
Pretty pathetic, you know. Doug Ford wants to be prime minister, and will he take French language instruction?
No.
That's work.
Yet, not happening.
That's work. That would take effort.
Yes. No. So, yeah, Linda, absolutely true. And by the way, hello, Kit Amelia. I saw you in the chat. Nice. I hope you're still there. But big kisses. All right. So now we get to the Q&A part, and then the type steps that are down there, Mr. Grizzly, will work for us.
1 second here.
So, at first, she's asked probably the basic question that everybody's been asked from the get-go, which is with regard to carbon pricing.
One question, one follow-up. Une question, puis suivi pour la Didja.
Karina, you talked about climate change in your video. We've heard, there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about the carbon tax and what to do with it. Some other leadership contenders have said they would suggested they would scrap the consumer price. What is your position on that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Look, I think what's incredibly important is that for Liberals, and quite frankly for Canadians across this country, climate change is one of the most important issues that we are facing. And one of the things that I love most about Canadians is that when there's a problem, they look for ways to solve it. And I understand that the price on pollution is something that a lot of Canadians don't feel speaks to what and how they think they can contribute and how they can make a difference. So what I am proposing is that we need to immediately cancel the increase to the price on pollution ahead of April 1st. We need to bring in measures that are going to help Canadians make the decisions that they want to make. Because Canadians are actually making those decisions already. They're already looking for ways to reduce their emissions, but sometimes it's too expensive. So we need to make sure that we're helping them buy an electric or hybrid vehicle. We're helping them reduce their emissions in their homes and finding other ways for them to make those contributions. While at the same time, industry needs to play its part. We need to make big polluters pay, And we need to ensure that we have a comprehensive national plan to fight the climate change. This is so important. Look, we're seeing what's happening in California, and we've seen the wildfires across the country. And Canadians care about this. But let's give them the tools and the way forward to make those decisions so that they too can be part of the solution. Oh, 1 second, Dennis. I'm just going to do it in French, and then I'll get to you. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Dennis, I'm just going to do it in French, and then Laura has a follow-up, and then I'll come to you. Okay?
I'll just skip ahead.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to put that is, look how she interacts with the press compared to someone else.
Actually addresses them by their name, doesn't accuse them of being a Trudeau-funded. Yeah.
And she doesn't have anybody monitoring her press conference. She's doing it herself.
Exactly. Why doesn't she get credit for that?
Right?
I mean, the Prime Minister does it all the time, and he never gets credit for it, so she won't get credit for it either. And then they'll turn and say, look at how powerful Pierre Poilievre is by calling out the reporters for doing their job.
Les Canadiens.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the...
Canadiens, ils veulent...
I think 1726.
Oh, no, that's where we started. Okay, now,
there
we go.
Sorry, 2053.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Pierre Poilievre on the issue, how can you...
Yeah.
Can't really hear the question.
So, look, I listen to Canadians and understand where they're coming from. And, you know, we need to make sure that we are hearing Canadians where they are. And so this is a demonstration that I hear them, that we're going to keep fighting climate change, but I hear that this isn't necessarily the way that they want to do it. And so we need to make those difficult choices. I'm not afraid to make those difficult choices, and I'm not too proud to change policies if they're not working for Canada. Dennis.
Boom.
I desperately have to take my my Lola out, so I'm going to go off camera for a bit, and I won't be able to operate this, obviously, when I'm not here, but if you want to carry on for a bit, sir, I have to take her because she's doing the dance, and I don't want... She would be mortified if she soiled in
I won't continue because there's going to be a lot of repeating in French.
Oh, okay.
So let's do this because we're already at 2 hours. So that gives you a taste, right? We'll definitely be back. We'll show more stuff because she's got some interesting things. But just to give you a sense is that the entire Q&A session was of that quality.
Right.
Beginning to whether she was asked about, how she felt about Carney and Freeland being in the race. She had a great diplomatic and perfect answer for that. She was asked about her lack of economic experiences. No, that's not true. I got plenty. And she was talking about all the support roles that she had. She was asked about, her commitment to rebuilding the party, her view on capital gains inclusion. This question that I said a few weeks ago that she might be asked about her time at Democratic Reform because, we're still having an election under first past the post.
Yes.
About the need to present a common front or a united front with regard to tariffs. So, I mean, she was peppered with a lot of questions, and every question was off the cuff, perfectly answered in English and in French, except for the last 3 questions of the day for some reason, which were just answered in English. They sort of got out of that mode, but able to speak with French. Often made some mistakes in French, the type of mistake that a Franco-Ontarian would make, which again just makes her sound more genuine. And if she's speaking French to Quebecers, will probably make her very, very endearing. The little mistakes that she's making, but truly Franco-Ontarian, speaks from the cuff, can speak contemporaneously. No notes, diplomatic, enthusiastic, can stir up people, can speak to your heart. She's a quality candidate. the debates are going to be interesting with her on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, and able to pick a lane somewhere in the middle too. That's not all one and not all the other, but somewhere in the middle to, rather than black or white, to sort of talk
Mhm.
nuances in between. She's got a lane for herself. She's got
Oh,
a
yes.
lane. I'm very
Absolutely.
impressed. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
we'll dive deeper into this come Monday.
Yeah. So I will do the outro, and then you can go, because I can end the show on my own.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll just pull the graphics. I've got the graphics up. Are you able to take them down, or can you see the
Yeah.
graphics? You can?
Yes, I have them. Yep.
Okay. Well, then in that case, if you can end it, I got to go right now so I can get my
Yep.
doggy
I
out
can do that.
before she
Yep.
she has a rough time.
Take care.
All right. I'll see you guys sooner than you expect.
Right. So there you go, kids and cubs. Lots of interesting news. Like you said, it's the end of the show. So if you would like to be sure that you do not miss an episode, you don't have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl. She sponsors our pod page. And if you're watching, you scan that QR code and that will bring you right there. If you're listening, podpage.com/the true North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And we can go there and click subscribe when we have something fresh off the bandwidth. When it comes to our ears only podcast versions, it will come directly to you. You don't even have to go searching. We try to make it easy. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. And I believe the QR code that is right up in the corner there, if you scan that, if you're watching, will bring you right there. And when you're there as well, if you watch our shows there live at 7 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Time-ish, tech willing, you will get to chat with the best damn time in all of podcasting. A bunch of lovely, endearing, and well-informed and engaged people from whom we learn a lot as well. So come and join us and have some good conversation with the members. Now, if you would like, while you're there, to click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe, well, that helps us with the algorithm and it makes us a little happy when we do. So thank you so much for all of that. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, let's say financially, hey, it is the end of the month, by the way. Then you just need to bring yourself on down to our coffee page. That's coffee, Kofi. Whoops, it keeps appearing and disappearing. There you go. ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. And there you will find the Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, where if you make a little donation, you can buy a hot chocolate or maybe a Caesar for your favorite beaver, or a cup of coffee, black and bitter, or a nice pint of Guinness for Mr. Grizzly. So if you want to give us a little pat on the shoulders and say, atta boy, atta beaver, atta grizzly, you've done some good shows this month, and you know what? We think that we should support and encourage you to do more. Oops, seems that I lost connection there for a second, but I'm back. Yes, it seems I lost for people who on the live who saw me disappear for a second. It's just a momentary lost connection, but I am back with you. So yes, if you are able to contribute financially, that would help us a lot. It is the end of the month, but hey, if you're not able to, do not worry one little bit, because as we keep on saying, the gift of your participation and the gift of your attention are the ones that matter the most to us. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. If you want to write to us on our socials, well, it's @TrueEager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and @TrueEager also at the Bad Place, because yes, we're still on the ship after all this time. And if you would like to write us at our original home on Facebook, True North Eager Beaver, well, we're still there. So yeah, come and say hello. And if you are watching on YouTube, right down below, well, there's the comment section. You can let us know what you think. Let us know what you think, good, bad, or ugly. And if it's ugly, please make it at least some constructive criticism and be gentle, because we are sensitive, delicate creatures. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, we have a liberal leadership race in the province of Quebec as well as federally. So Quebec, make sure that you do what you need to do in order to be able to register. And for the national one, the registration period is over, but you are being courted by the candidates. So far, still 6 candidates, or 5, I think now. And that Mr. Baptiste is not there. So please pay attention to who they are, and try to pay as little attention to Ruby Dalla as possible. Although she seems to be very good at making herself unavoidable. In addition to that, make sure, kids and cubs, that you are paying attention, if you're in Ontario, to the Ontario election race, and that you're looking at what you need to do to make sure that you can vote there. Always take time to double check to make sure that voter registration is fine and correct. In Canada, we don't have problems like in the United States, because it's usually done through when we file our taxes. We just tick the box and say we want to be on the list, and that's all there is. But it never hurts to make sure, especially if you've moved since the last election, or particularly in the last year. So take time to do that. And even though there will be less, because the election period is shorter, just 30 days or so, the advanced voting periods will also be shorter. I think there's only 3 days. But if you need to advance vote at any returning office in your riding, or at the main returning office in your electoral district, you can actually go and vote anytime. Even if there's a ballot not ready or prepared, they're not printed, you can still go in and write in. So you're not limited to just those 3 days. It says that's something I did not know, actually. I just learned watching TV Ontario a few days ago. So yes, if you're in Ontario and one of the 3 early voting days does not work for you, you just go to the main returning office in your electoral district and you can vote anytime. Of course, you need to have the appropriate ID for that. An ID proving that your name is your name, and that's something that offers a proof of residence, so that you can be crossed off the voting rolls, and showing that you have indeed voted when you go and do that. But yes, just so you know, that in Ontario, you don't have to wait for those 3 early voting days. You can just go to any major returning office at any time, including today, if you wanted to, if you already knew who you wanted to cast your vote for, right? Just wanted to let you know that you have more options than you think on that one. All right. Words of wisdom. Well, kids and cubs. Usually this is up to Mr. Grizzly, and I tend to have facts, but not too much wisdom. But I will say, kids and cubs, remember, if Trump does go ahead with the tariffs, yeah, there's going to be a lot of news coming at you hard and fast, a lot of hot takes, a lot of different interpretations. The ones that are typically the most alarming are the ones that are typically designed to alarm you. Now, I have to make a possible exception in this case, just because tariffs are pretty substantive and damaging. And if he does 25% across the board, never in history has there been anything something like that, at least in our history. So we really don't know what's to come. And therefore, we need to be practicing being comfortable with ambiguity and not knowing, because there's going to be a lot of that over the next 4 years, right? Sometimes you can't know because people don't want to let you know, or they have a vested interest in not letting you know, or sometimes just things can't be known at any given time, right? We have to be comfortable in that space, and it's not a comfortable space because we like clarity, we like finality, we like, there's all the shortcuts that we take in life to put things in very clear, definitive boxes, even though there's probably a lot more shades of gray, fluidity between stuff. But it helps us organize our life and compartmentalize things. So yeah, we are going to probably be more without this sense of stability and security and predictability and clarity over the next couple of years. So this is a skill we're going to have to develop, as being comfortable with not knowing and with things being mushy and not being able to get any traction or footing. Unfortunately, it's a skill that we're going to have to develop if we're going to maintain our sanity over the next 4 years. So never too early to start training. All right, kids and cubs. That's about all the wisdom I got in me today. So I think it may now be time to give the cock a little bit of a cue. What do you say, kids and cubs? Let's see if today I can stick the landing. Because over the past 3 days, so far, well, past 2 days, because I can't count today, I am 0-2. So let's try and see if today will work. All right, step 1. Here we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
All right, kids and cubs. I have a couple of extra little bites for you. I mentioned some of them yesterday. There might be a little bit of repeating because as the kids tried to let me know yesterday, the microphone that I had gone out with about 20 minutes left in the show. Now, fortunately, that means that mostly you missed the outro. But there were a couple of little tidbits of news I had for you. And if I am repeating myself, I am sorry for that. But you will understand why. So, a little bit of additional information here, kids and cubs, that might be interesting to you, various little subjects. The first one is about the whole bird flu or avian flu or highly pathogenic avian influenza. They're all different names for the same thing. There's been some developments because in the United States, it has its first case of what's called H5N9, which is, if that number sounds different to you, yes, because we normally hear about H1N1. So H5N9 was at a duck farm in California, and it's a more rare strain. The National Library of Medicine in the United States has a paper on it saying, quote, whether this novel H5N9 virus will cause human infections and become a pandemic subtype is not known yet. So this is information that comes from Bella of the Ranch, formerly Bo of the Fifth Column, with regards to that. But she says, it's therefore imperative to assess the risk of this novel reassortant virus with potential transmissibility to public health. Right now, people don't know if it's dangerous. The CDC site currently says, quote, while the current public health risk is low, CDC is watching the situation carefully and working with states to monitor people with animal exposures. Now, in a related piece of news, you'll remember that soon after being elected, IQ 47, who promised that he was going to lower the price of eggs, then started backtracking, saying, well, lowering these prices is very, very, very hard. Well, the USDA's price predictions for 2025 indicate that the retail prices for eggs will increase by 20.3% over the next year. And if you have access to farm-level eggs prices, you're looking at 45.2% increase. Now, overall prices for food are expected to increase only about 2.2%, so with all things being constant. But if there are tariffs or labor shortages or other things like that, that will impact costs and prices will go up further. So why are eggs going up by so much if food is just expected overall to go up 2.2%? Well, it's for the same reason as all this time, bird flu, H1N1. In November, December alone, more than 17 million egg-laying birds were destroyed and removed from the food supply. So in total, that number has been 136 million. So when you take 136 million egg-laying birds out of the food chain completely, that's a higher price of eggs. All of a sudden, there's a shortage. It's also higher price for poultry all around, or any type of meat from fowl all around. Indications are that the Trump administration will be limiting information coming out about health-related issues, so Americans might and the world might lose sight about how bad H1N1 can get or will get in the United States. But if prices suddenly drop, people are saying that while the Trump administration might spin this as them having success with regard to costs, it might be more of a sign that there's more lax virus containment measures rather than a lack of infection. Without information coming from public health officials and food health officials, it'll be impossible to gauge the market, which will also probably cause more volatility in the prices. There's also the fact that the bird flu has reached facilities where young chicks are being raised to be egg producers. So if the birds are being culled at that stage as well, it's not good for the medium-term trend, and in terms of making sure that there are no supply disruptions. Now, a lot of people might think, hey, then I'll start a backyard flock. It's probably not a good time at this moment because most human cases of bird flu have been traced back to contact with animals. So you'll want to be a little careful with regard to that. I saw somebody ask a question one day, this is going to turn into another pandemic, right? And we're going to get in trouble. Very likely so. Very likely so. If we're getting mutations like H5N9, we don't know which one of these mutations are going to suddenly, or new strains are suddenly going to be the one that allows humans to transmit to other humans. So we are already getting some jumps from animals into humans, but still there has been no documented case of human-to-human transmission. But should that happen, well, it's not like the United States has the government in place right now that is the best to handle a pandemic. So keep your eyes open for that. A little additional news for you, and if I repeat, I know I didn't do the bird flu thing yesterday, but if any of this repeats a little bit from yesterday, I am sorry. As I mentioned, the Federal Reserve yesterday will have kept its rate steady. Not yesterday, sorry, on Wednesday, kept its rate steady. So the spread between Canada and the U.S. in terms of interest rates has grown. Even though the Canadian dollar was affected a little bit, it still didn't drop to below 69 cents, which was the fear. So far, so good. In the United States, former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, who was a Democrat, was sentenced to 11 years of prison following his conviction for acting as an agent of the Egyptian government in a scheme to bring him cash, gold bars, and even a luxury car. Two other businessmen received a lesser sentence in the case. Menendez's wife, Nadine, on whom he tried a defense of blaming it all on her, has been charged separately and is still awaiting the trial. This case is specifically notable because it highlights that how when it's a Democrat that does something wrong in the United States, the Democrats actually do hold their own to account, as opposed to a certain current 34-time convicted felon president. Just saying. Syria's de facto leader has been declared the interim president months after his opposition group toppled the country's longtime president Bashar al-Assad. In a speech to the nation, he said all armed factions have been dissolved, as well as the old constitution, and Assad's Ba'ath Party has been disbanded. He's also been tasked with forming a transitional legislature. So things, again, keeps on saying the right things, and things keep on moving the right way so far in Syria. Hopefully that continues. Yesterday, also, the third prisoner exchange of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas took place. According to Al Jazeera News, 3 Israeli captives were scheduled to be released by Hamas. And in exchange, Israel was supposed to free 110 Palestinian prisoners. At least 32 of those prisoners were serving life sentences. In addition to that, there were 5 Thai nationals who I believe might have been aid workers, but I'm not completely sure on that, who were also freed. Also, on that date, Israel announced that it had banned UNRWA, UNWRA. That's the agency that brings relief to Palestinians, has banned them from operating, which the organization says will make things more difficult in the area. That is somewhat mitigated by the fact that more aid is crossing all the regular other borders now than it had been, but it's still something pretty major in terms of it's very disruptive. Let's just put it that way. Bonnie Crombie just mentioned she picked the seat in which she's going to run in. I believe it's called Mississauga East Cooksville. But her number one rival from the Progressive Conservative Party will happen to be Patrick Brown's mother-in-law. Interesting. Bonnie Crombie and Patrick Brown have a little bit of history when they were mayors at the same time, but it seems that Patrick Brown's mother-in-law has been involved in politics in her own right for a good long time, and they will be running against each other. And finally, Kits and Cubs, since we're talking about, I'd like to, well, since you know my favorite sweetie is a scientist, there's a little bit of science is cool news, because one of the things that we do as a species is frequently ask ourselves, where do we come from? What's our origin? Well, it seems that preliminary analysis of samples from a near-Earth asteroid has detected organic compounds that are necessary for life, according to scientists. The rocket samples were collected in 2023 and can actually be further evidence that maybe it was an asteroid strike that was the source of the beginning of life on Earth. More to come. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you today. I hope that you have a most beaverific day and a most beaverific weekend. And I'm hoping that the weather holds up back in Canada, in Ottawa, because I brought my skates with me and I'm looking forward to taking a skate on the canal over the course of the weekend. So wish me a good time. All right? And we'll see you on Monday. Well, I love you all very, very much. Please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Okay, let's see if I can do this all the way right.